Eating the frog. The whole idea is super simple, but really powerful. Your brain has this golden window every single day, usually the first 2 to 4 hours after you wake up, when your focus, willpower, and cognitive energy are at their absolute peak. Dopamine is nice and stable. Cortisol is up just enough to make you alert and sharp. And the mental noise of the day hasn't started piling up yet. That's exactly why eating the frog works so well. You do your hardest, most important, or most dreaded task first, before your brain gets tired, distracted, or fragmented. From a brain science point of view, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles planning, decision-making, impulse control, and deep focus, performs at its best when it's fresh and not juggling a bunch of other stuff. As the day goes on, cognitive fatigue creeps in. Your brain runs low on glucose. You keep context switching between tasks. Emotions and distractions start pulling you in every direction. If you save the big scary task for later, procrastination usually wins. But if you tackle it first thing, you ride that early day clarity and executive function at full strength. And psychologically, it's magic. When you finish that tough thing early, your brain's reward circuit, especially the striatum, lights up and releases a bunch of dopamine. You feel a real sense of agency and accomplishment. That little victory creates momentum. It makes the rest of the day's tasks feel easier because your brain now associates effort with reward instead of dread. You're literally rewiring how your brain feels about hard work. The phrase, "eat the frog," comes from an old saying. People usually credit Mark Twain, but it's probably not really him. If you have to eat a live frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. Then nothing worse can happen for the rest of the day. Funny, right? But underneath the joke is a deep truth about energy, attention, and decision fatigue. It's not really about superhuman discipline. It's about smart timing. Your brain's chemistry already wants to do the hard stuff early. You're just choosing to work with your biology instead of fighting it. When you eat the frog first, resistance doesn't even get a chance to build up. You get more done, and you feel way better doing it. So yeah, tomorrow morning, find your frog and eat it first. The 90-minute rule is all about working smarter by syncing with your brain's natural rhythm, not trying to bulldoze through endless hours with sheer willpower. Human alertness and focus don't stay constant. They follow predictable waves called ultradian rhythms, cycles that repeat roughly every 90 minutes, sometimes 80 to 120 minutes. This isn't just a productivity hack. It's rooted in how our biology actually works. The idea traces back to sleep research in the 1950s, 60s by scientist Nathaniel Kleitman, who discovered the basic rest activity cycle, BRAC. He found that the same 90-minute pattern that drives sleep stages, like REM and non-REM, continues during waking hours. Your brain and body cycle through peaks of high energy and alertness, followed by natural dips where rest is needed. Here's what happens in a typical 90-minute cycle. For the first 60-70 minutes, dopamine and norepinephrine rise. You get sustained focus, motivation, and sharp thinking. Neural firing rates increase, body temperature subtly shifts, and you're in prime deep work mode. Around the 70 to 90-minute mark, adenosine, a fatigue byproduct from mental energy use, builds up. Alertness starts dropping, focus fragments, and your brain signals time to recharge. If you push past this without a break, you're fighting biological friction. Performance drops not because you're lazy, but because physiology plateaus or declines. EEG studies on cognition show that respecting these cycles leads to higher accuracy, better creative output, and more sustainable productivity. The fix? Structure your work around deliberate 90-minute sessions. Dive into your most demanding task for 90 minutes, or whatever feels like your natural peak. Some people adjust to 80 or 100. Then take a real break, 15 to 30 minutes, to let adenosine clear, reset neural networks, and recover. Walk, stretch, hydrate, stare out the window. No heavy screen time or work. Repeat for 2 to 4 cycles per day. Most people max out at 3 to 4 high-quality deep sessions before diminishing returns. This isn't about optimizing every second of time. It's about synchronizing with your physiology, riding the natural ascent of focus, then strategically disengaging for renewal. The result? Deeper engagement without burnout. less resistance and mental drag, more real output from the same or less effort. It's a quiet reminder. The brain does its best work not through endless grinding, but by honoring its own built-in pulse, a rhythm of intensity followed by renewal. The idea of the extended mind is kind of mind-blowing once you really think about it. Your mind doesn't just stop at your skull. It literally extends out into the world through the tools you use. A simple pencil, a notebook, your smartphone, even a whiteboard. This concept, called the extended mind thesis, was introduced back in the late 1990s by philosophers Andy Clark and David Chalmers. They argued that thinking isn't locked inside your brain alone. Instead, cognition happens in the loop between your brain, your body, and your environment. When a tool reliably helps you store, process, or manipulate information, like jotting notes in a journal, checking a calendar app, or sketching ideas on paper, that tool becomes part of your thinking system. It's not just an aid. It's functioning as external memory or an extra part of your cognitive workspace. This offloads a ton of work from your brain's working memory and prefrontal cortex, the areas handling attention, planning, and holding things in mind. You free up mental space for deeper thinking instead of juggling everything internally. Neuroscience backs this up too. Brain imaging studies show that when we offload tasks, writing things down, drawing diagrams, or physically moving models around, activity shifts away from pure internal visualization areas and toward motor and sensory regions. Your hands, eyes, and the physical stuff you're interacting with become active players in the reasoning process. That's why architects sketch furiously, programmers love whiteboards, and writers outline on paper. It's not decoration. It's externalized cognition helping them think bigger, clearer, and more creatively. This distributed setup boosts problem-solving depth and sparks more creativity because your whole body environment loop is part of the thinking. But there's a flip side, especially with digital tools today. If you just passively delegate memory or thinking to devices, like relying on Google for everything without really engaging, it can weaken things. Your hippocampus, the brain's key memory hub, forms shallower, less durable traces when you don't actively process and rehearse info yourself. Long-term retention suffers, and you risk becoming over-reliant on tech that might not always be there. The extended mind works best when tools are true collaborators, not lazy substitutes. They should augment your effort, extending and enhancing what your brain does, rather than fully replacing it. In the end, this idea totally reframes what intelligence really is. It's not some isolated thing trapped in your neurons. It's a dynamic system that stretches across gestures, symbols, spaces, tools, and even other people. Your mind extends wherever your attention and intention are actively anchored, from the neural stuff inside your head all the way out into the physical world. So next time you're scribbling notes or pulling up an app to think through something, remember, that's not just using a tool. That's literally expanding your mind. The morning walk, it's one of the simplest, most underrated things you can do for your brain every single day. Walking soon after you wake up does way more than just get your body moving. The combo of natural light, rhythmic breathing, and steady motion basically tunes up almost every system that controls your alertness, mood, and mental sharpness. Here's the magic breakdown. Morning sunlight hits your eyes' special retinal ganglion cells, not the ones for vision, but for light detection, send a direct signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN, your brain's master circadian clock. This resets your internal 24-hour rhythm so your body knows it's daytime now. It triggers a healthy morning spike in cortisol, the right kind, energizing and focused, not the chronic stress version. It suppresses melatonin production during the day, so you feel awake now and sleepy later when it's dark. Net result, better daytime energy plus deeper, more restorative sleep at night. Walking itself supercharges everything. Boosts cerebral blood flow, more oxygen and glucose get delivered to the prefrontal areas, planning, decision-making, and regions tied to creativity and insight. Shifts your brain into the default mode network, DMN, in a healthy way, that open, wandering state where ideas connect, problems solve themselves in the background, and those aha moments show up. The gentle, bilateral rhythm of walking, left-right, also seems to calm the nervous system and sync brain hemispheres for clearer thinking. It's no coincidence that so many brilliant minds built walking into their routine. Aristotle walked while teaching. His students were called peripatetics, the walkers. Immanuel Kant took his famous daily strolls in Königsberg like clockwork. Nietzsche, Thoreau, Virginia Woolf, and countless others swore by walking to unlock deeper thought. They didn't have fMRI scans, but they felt it. Moving the body loosens the mind. Deliberate, sit-down thinking is great, but the most creative, connected ideas often arrive when you're not forcing it, just moving forward in fresh air and light. In our screen-first world, where most days start with blue light and notifications, a morning walk hits the reset button. It gives your brain the slow, natural rhythm it evolved for. No rush, no demands, just gentle forward motion. Clarity doesn't always come from sitting still and grinding. Sometimes it shows up quietly, one step at a time, with sunlight on your face and the world waking up around you. So tomorrow morning, skip the scroll, lace up, step outside. Let the light and the walk do the work. Nootropics, also called smart drugs or cognitive enhancers. These are substances specifically designed to boost focus, memory, mental clarity, and overall brain performance, without the jittery overstimulation or nasty crash you get from things like caffeine overload or amphetamines. The real goal of true nootropics isn't to force your brain beyond its limits. It's to optimize its natural baseline so it runs smoother, cleaner, and more efficiently. The term nootropic was actually invented back in the 1960s by a Romanian chemist named Corneliu Georgia. He combined two Greek words, nous, mind, and tropine, to bend. His vision wasn't about getting high or superstimulated. It was about protecting and enhancing the brain. Georgia laid out 5 key criteria for something to truly be called a nootropic. Improves learning and memory. Protects the brain from physical or chemical injury. Makes the 2 hemispheres of the brain communicate better, interhemispheric communication. Has very minimal side effects. Doesn't cause the typical stimulant-like effects. How do most nootropics actually work? They tweak neurotransmitters, improve cerebral blood flow, support mitochondrial energy, or enhance synaptic plasticity. Some popular examples. L-theanine, found in green tea, boosts alpha brain waves calm, focused alertness without drowsiness. Bacopa monnieri reduces oxidative stress and supports long-term memory formation. Rhodiola rosea helps fight mental fatigue and stress. Pyricetum, one of the originals, increases acetylcholine efficiency for sharper neuronal signaling. The result? Not some magical burst of genius or sudden IQ jump. More like a subtle upgrade. Cleaner thinking, less brain fog, steadier mood, better recall, and way less mental fatigue. Modern neuroscience backs this up. Sustainable performance comes from neurochemical balance, not constant overstimulation. Nootropics that support mitochondrial health or synaptic plasticity help your brain endure longer without triggering dependency or burnout cycles. In real life, the biggest win with nootropics isn't about becoming a superhuman. It's the small daily shifts. Less afternoon mental slump. Easier to remember names or details. Feeling calmer under pressure. Thinking feels smoother and more alive. Nootropics don't replace hard work, good sleep, or solid habits. They just improve the terrain your mind works on, making effort feel more natural and rewarding. Think of them as fine-tuning the engine rather than flooring the gas pedal. When used right, they help your mind operate the way it's supposed to, balanced, alert, and sharp. Meditation, at its core, is about training your mind to notice things clearly, especially your own thoughts, without getting completely swept away by them. For a long time, science dismissed meditation as something spiritual or woo-woo. Then brain imaging changed everything. Decades of rigorous studies now show that regular meditation literally reshapes your brain, both in structure and function. Here's what the research consistently finds. Increased gray matter in key areas. Prefrontal cortex, better executive function, decision-making, focus. Anterior cingulate cortex, improved attention control and error detection. Decreased activity in the amygdala, your brain's alarm system for threats and fear. Result? A calmer, less reactive stress response in everyday life. Long-term meditators also show lower activity in the default mode network, DMN, the part that kicks in when your mind wanders into rumination, self-criticism, daydreaming, or what-if loops. Less DMN chatter equals less mental noise and obsessive thinking. How does this actually happen? The practice is surprisingly simple, but powerful because of repetition. You sit or lie down, walk, whatever, focus on something simple, usually your breath, body sensations, or a mantra. Your mind wanders, it always will. You notice the wandering. You gently bring attention back. That loop, distraction, recognition, redirection, is the workout. Each time you catch yourself and return, you strengthen the neural circuits responsible for meta-awareness, awareness of awareness, focus, and impulse control. It's like doing reps for your attention muscle. Over months and years, this rewires how you relate to your inner world. Thoughts become something you observe rather than something you are. Emotions feel intense, but not all-consuming. They rise, peak, and pass. Pain, physical or emotional, loses some of its grip because you're not fused with it. You start experiencing life more in the present moment instead of being lost in past regrets or future worries. Ancient traditions didn't call meditation relaxation or escape. They called it seeing clearly, an active investigation into how the mind really works. Modern neuroscience basically says the same thing. Clarity isn't some mystical gift. It's a trainable skill, restored through deliberate, repeated attention. So when you meditate, you're not just chilling out. You're doing targeted brain training, quieting the noise, strengthening awareness, building the ability to stay anchored, no matter what's happening inside or outside. One breath at a time, one gentle return at a time, and slowly, the way you experience everything starts to change, calmer, clearer, more free. The daily win. This is one of the smartest, simplest ways to keep your motivation alive long-term, especially when the big goals feel far away. Your brain doesn't actually get its biggest dopamine hit from finally achieving something huge. Dopamine, the motivation chemical, fires most powerfully when it detects progress, any evidence that your effort is moving the needle, even a tiny bit. The daily win technique hacks exactly that system. Every single day, you deliberately pick one concrete action, no matter how small, that clearly shows forward movement toward what matters to you. Not a massive victory, just proof that you're advancing. Neuroscientifically, every time you recognize that small step forward, the mesolimbic reward pathway lights up. Dopamine floods the nucleus accumbens, your brain's reward hub. That chemical signal tells your brain, this effort paid off. Keep doing more of this. This creates a self-reinforcing loop, the same machinery behind learning new skills, building habits, and pushing through tough stretches. Without regular hits of progress feedback, the brain starts to flatline into apathy because it can't tell the difference between meaningful struggle and pointless spinning. Psychologists call this the progress principle, backed by research from Teresa Amabile and others. People feel far more satisfied, energized, and motivated by visible signs of improvement than by finally crossing the finish line. Celebrating the daily win flips the script from, did I finish everything perfectly, to did I move forward today? That tiny mental shift dramatically cuts burnout, builds resilience, and keeps you engaged, especially on long, uncertain journeys where big wins are rare. This isn't modern self-help fluff, it's ancient wisdom in disguise. Stone masons and builders carved notches or marks on walls to track daily progress. At the end of the day, jot it down, say it out loud, or just pause for 5 seconds and feel it. Today, I moved the needle. Because progress, not perfection, not completion, is the brain's favorite form of reward. When you train it to celebrate the step instead of waiting for the summit, persistence stops feeling forced and starts feeling natural. One small win at a time. And suddenly, the long road doesn't feel so long anymore. The vision reminder. This is one of the quietest but most powerful ways to keep your brain pointed in the right direction day after day. Here's the core truth. Your attention is a limited resource. Every thought, notification, urge, distraction, and task is fighting for the same tiny pool of mental energy. Without a clear anchor, that energy scatters. You chase shiny things, get sidetracked, start strong, and then drift. A vision reminder fixes that by giving your brain a steady, unchanging reference point, something written, visual, or symbolic that represents your bigger why. At the brain level, motivation isn't one feeling. It's a constant conversation between two key parts. The prefrontal cortex, your long-term planner, the part that holds big goals, values, and who I want to become. The dopaminergic midbrain, especially the ventral tegmental area and nucleus accumbens, the short-term reward engine that says this feels good right now, do more of it. When those two aren't aligned, motivation feels choppy, intense bursts followed by apathy, procrastination, or why am I even doing this? A vision reminder acts as a bridge between them. Every time your eyes land on it, a written goal on your wall, a photo of your future self, a one-sentence mission taped to your monitor, a tattoo, a phone wallpaper, it triggers a small but targeted dopamine release. But here's the key. That dopamine isn't tied to random novelty or instant gratification anymore. It gets linked to meaningful progress towards something you actually care about. Research on goal priming backs this up. Even subtle, unconscious exposure to words, images, or symbols connected to your core values or long-term goals increases persistence, decision quality, and resistance to distractions. Over weeks and months, this conditions your brain to redefine what rewarding feels like. Small, daily tasks start carrying real emotional weight because your brain now tags them as this is moving me closer to the thing that matters. People have done versions of this forever. Sailors navigating by fixed stars, a literal vision reminder in the sky. Monks repeating mantras or keeping sacred images in their line of sight. Modern engineers, founders, and athletes pinning mission statements, vision boards, or progress trackers where they can't miss them. All of them are using the same principle. Reduce cognitive noise by anchoring attention to one big idea that survives bad moods, tiredness, doubt, or shiny distractions. The vision reminder isn't about forcing willpower or waiting for inspiration to strike. It's about neural consistency, gently training your brain's chemistry to stay aimed in the same direction long enough for real meaning, momentum, and results to build up. Because true focus doesn't come from grinding harder. It comes from alignment, getting the short-term reward system and the long-term planning system to finally agree on what deserves your energy. Keep that reminder in your line of sight. Let it quietly rewire what feels important, one glance at a time. Eventually, the direction becomes automatic and the drift disappears. Napping. It's not a sign of laziness or weakness. It's actually one of the smartest ways to hack your brain's natural rhythm and come back sharper. Your brain doesn't tire at a steady pace all day. Alertness follows your circadian rhythm, and most people experience a noticeable dip in the early afternoon, usually 1 to 3 p.m. That slump isn't random. It's biology giving you a built-in window for recovery. Here's what's happening under the hood. While you're awake, your brain burns energy and builds up adenosine, a chemical byproduct that gradually slows neural activity and makes you feel sleepy or foggy. A short nap acts like a partial reset button. It clears out some of that adenosine buildup, restoring mental clarity, reaction time, and focus. Even a quick 10 to 20-minute nap, what researchers call a power nap, delivers big benefits without you ever hitting deep sleep. Faster reaction time, better learning and memory consolidation, sharper attention and focus, improved problem solving, more stable emotional regulation. NASA studies on pilots during long flights showed that a brief nap boosted performance by over 30%, better vigilance, fewer errors, sharper decisions. Similar gains show up in students cramming, surgeons between cases, programmers debugging code, basically anyone doing demanding cognitive work. During that short rest, your brain doesn't just shut off. It quietly resorts information, strengthening useful recent memories, pruning irrelevant noise, and clearing mental clutter so you return refreshed. Timing and length matter a lot. 10 to 20 minutes, perfect for alertness and quick reset, stays in light sleep stages. 30 to 60 minutes. You dip into slow wave, deep, sleep great for memory consolidation, but often causes sleep inertia, grogginess, when you wake up. 90 plus minutes. Full sleep cycle can be restorative but risks messing with nighttime sleep if done too late. The sweet spot for most people? 20 minutes or less. Enough to clear adenosine and recharge without restarting the whole sleep drive. This isn't a modern hack. Cultures have baked structured rest into daily life for centuries. The Mediterranean siesta, afternoon shutdown for heat and renewal. Japanese inamuri, napping in public as a sign of hard work and dedication. Spanish, Latin American, and many other traditions all recognize that the brain works in rhythms, not endless linear output. Productivity isn't about constant grinding. It's about exertion balanced with smart renewal. The brain doesn't need more hours to perform at its best. It needs the right kind of pause at the right moment. So next time that afternoon fog rolls in, don't fight it with more coffee. Embrace it. Set a 20-minute timer, find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and let your brain do its natural cleanup. You'll wake up not just rested, but noticeably sharper. One strategic nap at a time. The silent morning. It's one of the most underrated ways to give your brain the best possible start to the day. The first hour after waking is a fragile transition period. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles decision-making, planning, focus, self-control, and clear thinking, is still booting up. It's calibrating, shaking off the fog of sleep, and slowly shifting from the slow, dreamy waves of deep rest into full daytime alertness. If you flood it right away with inputs, phone notifications, news headlines, texts, conversations, podcasts, emails, you force rapid context switching before the system is ready. That scatters your attention, spikes stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, prematurely, and sets a reactive, fragmented tone for the rest of the day. A silent morning protects that delicate phase. Neuroscientifically, this window is called sleep inertia, the groggy period when the brain is transitioning out of slow-wave sleep patterns. When you let the shift happen gradually and without disruption, the nervous system stays calm. Cortisol and adrenaline rise gently into their optimal alert but not stressed range. You avoid the cortisol spike that comes from immediate overstimulation. In that quiet space, the default mode network, DMN, the brain's background reflection system tied to imagination, insight, self-reflection, and big-picture thinking, gets to run uninterrupted. That's why so many people report their clearest, most creative thoughts happening in the first quiet hour of the day, before they've said a single word or checked a screen. This isn't new wisdom. Across cultures and centuries, people intuitively built silence into the start of the day. Monks sitting in stillness before morning prayers or chants. Writers, like Hemingway or many modern novelists, refusing to speak or read until after their morning writing block. Inventors like Nikola Tesla, who reportedly began his days in near total silence to let ideas flow freely. They didn't have brain scans, but they felt the difference. The mind needs a clean, quiet boot sequence. Practically, a silent morning doesn't mean you have to become a hermit or live in a cave. It just means postponing external inputs for the first 30 to 60 minutes, or however long feels right. No talking, or minimal if you live with others. No screens, no phone, no social media, no news. No reactive tasks, emails, to-do lists, planning apps. Instead, sit with coffee or tea in quiet. Journal if you want, but no forcing it. Stretch, breathe, look out the window. Let thoughts come and go without grabbing them. In that protected window, your attention naturally organizes itself. Thoughts untangle. Priorities clarify from the inside out. Your emotional baseline for the day gets set by you, not by whatever the internet or other people are shouting about. This isn't mystical or spiritual fluff, it's straight-up neurological hygiene. You're giving your brain time to synchronize its networks before dumping a fire hose of data on it. Because real silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's the presence of control. Control over where your attention goes first thing when it matters most. Try it tomorrow. Wake up, stay quiet. Let the brain wake up on its own terms. You'll feel the difference in how sharp, calm, and directed the rest of your day feels. Hydration habit. It sounds basic, but keeping your brain properly hydrated is one of the easiest, most underrated ways to protect focus, mood, and mental performance every single day. Your brain is about 75% water, yet it has zero way to store extra. Even tiny drops in hydration, just 1 to 2% body fluid loss, hit cognitive function hard. Slower processing speed, weaker attention and focus, impaired short-term memory, increased fatigue and irritability. The real goal isn't chugging huge amounts of water at once. It's about building a steady hydration rhythm, consistent small sips throughout the day, so your brain's electrical and chemical systems stay stable and efficient. Here's why it matters at the neuron level. Neurons talk to each other through fast electrochemical signals. Those signals depend on precise movement of ions, sodium, potassium, calcium, across cell membranes. When you're even mildly dehydrated, ion exchange slows down neural messages, transmit less efficiently. Blood gets slightly thicker, less oxygen and nutrients reach brain tissue. The effects creep in quietly, long before you actually feel thirsty. Brain fog, short fuse, feeling like everything takes more effort than it should. Research, like studies from the University of Connecticut, shows mild dehydration makes cognitive tasks feel harder. Your brain has to burn more energy just to hit the same level of performance. Perceived effort goes up, focus drops, and output suffers. The good news? Rehydrating reverses it fast. Often within minutes you get better vigilance, clearer thinking, and steadier mood. Hydration also quietly supports neurotransmitter balance. Adequate water helps with the synthesis of serotonin, mood stability, and dopamine, motivation and reward. When you stay consistently hydrated, you avoid the hormonal stress response, extra cortisol, that dehydration can trigger. This isn't about hitting some magic daily liter goal or forcing yourself to drink when you're not thirsty. It's about rhythm, sipping water regularly, aligning intake with your body's natural needs, more after waking, during/after exercise, with meals, etc. Think of it like this. The mind runs on chemistry. Chemistry runs on fluid balance. Keep the system conductive, and thoughts flow smoother, faster, and with less resistance. In a world full of complicated hacks, the simplest mental maintenance might be the most powerful one. Just keep the water coming, steady and small, all day long. Your brain will stay alert, calm, and ready, because when the fluid is right, everything else works better. The Curiosity Hour, it's a super simple, powerful way to fight back against how modern life slowly kills our natural sense of wonder. Curiosity is one of the oldest, deepest drives in the human brain. It's what pushed our ancestors to explore, invent, and survive. Yet in today's world, packed with deadlines, notifications, and useful tasks, it's often the first thing to get buried. The Curiosity Hour is just carving out a dedicated block of time, 30 to 60 minutes, once a day or a few times a week, to follow something that genuinely interests you, with zero pressure for it to be productive, career-related, or valuable. No goals, no outcomes, just pure, selfish exploration because it sparks something in you. Here's why it works so well neurologically. When you get curious about something, your brain's dopaminergic circuit, the same reward pathway that lights up for food, sex, social wins, etc., fires up. Dopamine levels rise, attention sharpens, motivation kicks in, and your brain becomes a sponge for new information. Even cooler, this dopamine boost doesn't just help you learn the thing you're curious about. It creates a general learning enhancement effect. Your brain gets better at absorbing and remembering everything for a while afterward, even unrelated stuff. A famous 2014 study from UC Davis showed exactly this. When people were in a curious state about one topic, they remembered random, boring trivia, unrelated material, way better than when they weren't curious. Curiosity doesn't just focus the mind. It primes the whole brain for better learning and exploration in general. In everyday life, that means a short burst of genuine interest acts like a mental reset. It reminds your brain that learning isn't always a grind tied to grades, money, or achievement. It can be a natural source of joy and intrinsic reward. Over time, it rebuilds that childlike sense of wonder and makes motivation feel effortless instead of forced. The Curiosity Hour isn't about becoming an expert in random topics. It's about giving your brain permission to play again, to chase questions just because they feel alive and exciting. Pick something small. Read about black holes, watch a documentary on deep-sea creatures, learn a weird historical fact, mess around with a new instrument, Google, why do cats purr? Whatever lights you up. No notes required. No pressure to apply it. Just follow the pull. When curiosity leads the way, motivation, focus, and joy tend to follow naturally, without you having to push so hard. In a world that constantly demands usefulness, the curiosity hour is a quiet rebellion. A little daily reminder that wondering for its own sake is still one of the best things your brain was built to do. Block the time. Follow the spark. Let your mind remember what it feels like to be truly awake and interested. One curious hour at a time. Light movement. Think gentle walks, easy stretching, slow cycling, or even pacing while thinking. It's not about breaking a sweat or building muscle. It's about quietly resetting and upgrading your brain without any real physical cost. Even low-intensity activity does powerful things inside your head. It boosts blood flow, delivering more oxygen and nutrients straight to your neural tissue. This fresh supply acts like a gentle reset button, clearing mental fog, sharpening clarity, and bringing emotional balance without leaving you tired or wired. At the cellular level, light movement triggers a steady release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, often called miracle grow for the brain. BDNF supports neuron survival, growth, and the formation of new connections. Consistent gentle movement keeps BDNF levels elevated without big spikes and crashes, which means better neuroplasticity over time. Your brain literally gets better at rewiring and adapting. Unlike intense workouts that can briefly ramp up stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, low-intensity movement keeps your nervous system in a parasympathetic, rest and digest state. You get heightened focus and calm alertness, the perfect sweet spot for deep learning, creative thinking, problem-solving, or just staying emotionally steady. There's also a rhythm magic at play. Repetitive, balanced motion, left-right stepping, arm swings, gentle rocking, helps synchronize neural oscillations between the brain's two hemispheres. This improves communication between motor areas and higher cognitive regions, creating a more fluid, connected thinking state. That's exactly why so many people get their best ideas while walking, doing dishes, folding laundry, or tinkering with something simple. The body's gentle rhythm frees the mind to make unexpected links and associations. This isn't new. For centuries, people intuitively paired light movement with thinking. Monks pacing slowly while reciting prayers or mantras. Philosophers and mathematicians, like Aristotle's peripatetic school or Kant's daily walks, strolling gardens to untangle complex ideas. Writers and inventors who think best when their feet are moving. They sensed what modern neuroscience now proves. Motion refines perception and unlocks clearer, more creative cognition. Light movement isn't exercise in the gym bro sense. It's daily maintenance for your mind's internal environment, keeping circulation flowing, thoughts ordered, emotions grounded, and the whole system humming smoothly. The brain doesn't do its best work in total stillness or under constant strain. It thrives most when it's carried along by motion that feels almost effortless, gentle, rhythmic, sustainable. So next time you're stuck, foggy, or just need to think straighter, don't force another hour at the desk. Get up, move lightly. Let the steps do the quiet work of clearing and connecting. Your best ideas might just be one easy walk away.